the cloud. So everybody has to accept, and as our usual assistants say, oh, actually, in this case, I guess I don't know how to record it by pinning myself. So that means everybody is on this recording. So if you don't want to be recorded and seen, like you're maintaining your anonymity, you should go off your camera. But if you don't mind, then you'll be exposed to the whole world, like the 12 people that watch these videos, who probably you probably know anyway. So, all right. So welcome. It is Friday, March 24th, the fourth Friday of the month. I mean, there are going to be 5 Fridays this month. That's big news from the Friday department. And welcome to those who survived the retreat. I see some of us here. Jeff, Mary Helen. Abigail was there in spirit, we know. She would have been there. Eleanor was there. Don't know if anybody else. But we had quite a retreat down there in Redwood Glen. Really quite nice. And that's why I decided to just come home and keep going. I was having so much fun meditating that I was like, my wife is away. I got nothing to do. I'm just going to stay home and meditate. So, and you can't play golf in this weather. So anyway, oh, all right. Gail is giving me instructions for how to pin myself. Go to participants, go to your name, click pin. Okay, I'll try it. Sounds awfully complicated, but I'll try it. Let's see. Pin. All right. I'm pinned. Ooh. Oh, I have to see myself now. All right. Take that. Thank you, Gail. That was a lot of help. No, that was so complicated. All right. You're no longer exposed to the world. So we're going to meditate. I'm going to read from Burning Desire, and like that there. I did say it was March 24th, but I did not say that it's 2023. I've gotten in the habit now of just naming the date so that in the future, when future people discover this in their archive of trying to find out what happened on Earth all those thousands of years ago, they'll be like, oh, well, this guy was doing something he called meditation. It was something they called Buddhism. We don't know what it is. We're still trying to figure it out. So, and 2023, that's how we keep time now. It's based on when this other religious leader was supposedly born. But that's too complicated to go into, so we'll just leave it at that. All right, folks. Told you, I've just been sitting here meditating, so I'm not going to be rational tonight. Maybe I'll try and help you to meditate. How about that? Okay, so settling back into your posture. You can be upright or reclining, whatever is most supportive of your practice. In whatever posture, though, you want to try to get to a point of stillness, of physical stillness. That physical stillness then supports the calming of the mind, the stilling of the mind. You can close your eyes or just lower your gaze. Really don't need to be looking at the screen. Kind of save yourself some screen time. And letting the attention come into the body, just feeling the whole body, sitting or lying, stillness. feeling the breath in the body. And having a sense of softening, relaxing, releasing. Now, as we settle, we try to get the sense of the subtle relaxation, not just muscular, but more of a felt relaxation. Noticing if there's tension that we often carry, emotional or stress tension. So there's a tuning in to the subtleties, tuning into the subtle inner tension, trying to have a sense of the breath going right into that space, opening and releasing. And making the breath your primary object of attention. This can be done in different ways, paying attention to the specific sensations at the nostrils or the belly. You can be more aware of the global experience of the breath, the movement, rhythm. The expansion and contraction of the body with the breath. Despite our efforts to stay with the breath, the mind tends to wander to the past or the future, into questions and analysis. And so we persist at coming back, at letting go of thoughts, returning to the body, to the breath. Try not to struggle or strive to hold on to the breath or get disturbed if the mind is wandering. We can bring an attitude of acceptance, non-conflict, non-contention. Then no matter what happens, we can discover quality of peace is available. All right. Welcome again. Thank you for showing up. Before I get into the theme of the evening, I thought I would let you know about a coming event. If I can find it. Maybe I don't have it handy. Yeah, here it is. I'm going to do a series online called The Four Noble Truths of Recovery. And this is the first time I've done anything, done a series, which is basically a Buddhism and the 12 Steps series by any other name. It's going to be 4 weeks, an hour and a half classes in April, and then a day long. So it starts on like April 5th, I think. And then ends on April 29th. So if you're interested, that's sponsored by the Barry Center for Buddhist Studies. Very nice to do something for them. I will also give you information on Dana. What else do I want to say? I guess nothing immediate coming up other than that. Teaching a retreat this summer with Vimala Sara, but I think we can wait to advertise that. And there's the page on my website that tells you how you can give me Dana if you want. Oh, Dana. I used to do that at the end of retreats, sing Oh, Dana, but with the Buddhist modified lyrics. But that went by the wayside at a certain point. John A., you are signed up. Yay. All right. So so we're getting to the end of A Burning Desire, and we're in step 11, and the last section we read was called Seeking God, as in sought prayer and meditation to improve our contact with God. And then the next section is called The Will of God, as in praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out, as it says in the step. This section is a few pages. I'll read for a while. I looked it over. I didn't find a logical place to stop in the middle, so we'll have to see. But I do think this is a worthwhile piece to look at. Yes, it's certainly a question that comes up when we get into the topic of Buddhism and the 12 steps, is when you get to step 11, what does that mean, the will of God in relation to the Dharma? So without further ado, if you happen to have this book, Burning Desire, in your hand, I'm on page 208. The idea that God has will presupposes that God is some entity who has preferences. He, she, or it wants certain things for us. This idea doesn't fit with the idea of a Dharma God, that is impersonal, just a set of powers and energies. In order then to follow the will of a Dharma God, I have to come back to what the Buddha taught. But it seems odd to say there is will behind things like mindfulness, karma, and loving kindness. What about natural laws like gravity? Could you say they have will? It doesn't make much sense. But you can certainly say that gravity has a very clear power, and that trying to fight that power will only lead to problems and probably some nasty bruises. So let's just say that the will of gravity is for smaller objects to be drawn toward bigger objects. Seen in this light, the power of mindfulness is to wake up. So the will of mindfulness is for us to move toward more awareness. The power of karma is to bring results for actions. So the will of karma is for our intentions and actions to be skillful. The power of loving kindness is to connect people with each other and with the universe. So the will of loving kindness is for us to open our hearts to this connection. Going against the will of God then is moving toward less awareness, becoming dulled and closing down, just what an addict does. Acting unskillfully, breaking the precepts, fostering anger and resentment. The formula is pretty simple, perhaps simplistic, but in some essential way it works. A couple of things are important about this interpretation about Buddhism and God. The first is that God, in this sense, is totally impersonal. There is no being here who wants or wills things. There are only forces, just like gravity, that function in their natural way. We, as conscious beings, can see these forces, understand them, and learn to interact with them skillfully. That's called wisdom. A wise person sees the way things are, the way things work, and learns how to get along with that. An unwise person, someone who goes against God's will, doesn't see the way things work, and so is always stumbling and having problems that they don't understand. Or they do see the way things work, but think they can beat the system, and therefore are always stumbling and having problems. This means spiritual growth has two essential components. First, understanding how God works, and second, cooperating with that. Neither of these is so simple. Many aspects of human nature block us from understanding how God works. Our natural cravings put us in conflict with the truth of the cause of suffering, with the truth of impermanence, with the law of karma, with the forces of love and compassion. These individual cravings are then expressed on a societal level in political, cultural, and economic systems. Instead of having a culture that is focused on harmony, caring for each other, and growing more wise, we have war, poverty, inadequate health care and education, rampant addiction, obesity, and promiscuity. We also have racism, sexism, and homophobia. These social forces resulting from individual greed, hatred, and delusion, once established, start to reinforce individual negativity, justifying our sordid impulses. People start to believe that war is inevitable, that hate and greed are human nature, that our animal instincts will always trump our intellect or compassion. Phew, well, we went a long way from the beginning of this piece, this section, but I hope you're with me. This runs counter to Buddhist teachings and the experience of meditation. What we discover in meditation and what the Buddha taught is that when we let go of the energies on the surface of our minds, the waves of disturbance that are embodied in the five hindrances, there is a calm, luminous, loving quality. So underneath the five hindrances, when we let go of them, there is a calm, luminous, loving quality. The opposite of original sin, this is sometimes called our original mind. When we see this original mind, even for a split second, our view of reality is transformed. Our understanding of who we are and of our potential is irrevocably altered. Altering our instinctually and culturally imposed view of ourselves and our world doesn't take a great spiritual breakthrough. This understanding, which is essentially right view, the first step on the Eightfold Path, is natural to us. As addicts, many of us sensed that our way of living wasn't working, but we were in denial. Denial is the active effort to suppress what we actually know, which means that we did know that we were going against God's will or the moral forces of the universe, but we simply didn't want to face that fact. Addiction, because it becomes so powerfully conditioned in us, can block us from seeing the most obvious things, or at least to admitting to those things. Hitting bottom, whatever that is for us, and having a, quote, moment of clarity, unquote, gives us the chance to see the truth and start to understand the will of God. The 11th step, and indeed Buddhism, suggests that getting in touch with the will of God is enhanced by taking some actions, particularly practices of prayer and meditation. From a Buddhist perspective, when we pray, we are simply reminding ourselves of the fundamental truths of the Dharma so that we will act in harmony with them. Our deep conditioning tends to pull us back over and over to acting out of selfishness, and prayer reminds us of the futility of those actions. We remind ourselves that the will of God is that we be unselfish, awake, and kind. This is hard for me to read because as I mentioned, I've been meditating for a few days here, and it's a lot of words, more words than I've had for a while. But I'll keep going because, when we meditate, we watch the functioning of the Dharma. We see how a moment of wanting is painful and how a moment of letting go is freeing. We see the connection between our thoughts and feelings, our mind and body. We see the frail and fleeting quality of each moment, the impossibility of holding on to anything. We touch the mind that is beyond ego, the impersonal, universal quality of knowing that shows us our interconnection with all beings and all things. And we open our hearts to the universal love that is inside every one of us. All of this loosens and undermines the conditioning that causes suffering, the ignorance and willfulness that keep tripping us up. Once we understand the will of God, once we have knowledge of his will for us, pardon the gender, we're only halfway there. Then according to the step, which I think is quite right, we need to have the power to carry that out. This is very much what we are saying when in step 3, we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Carrying out God's will is living in harmony with the Dharma. Acting on our beliefs is difficult. Many addicts have strong moral convictions and spiritual faith, but aren't able to fulfill them. When I was practicing meditation before I got sober, I felt committed to my path. I was inspired by my teacher's wise words and delighted by the states of calm and joy that arose on retreats. But somehow all of that didn't translate into living any differently. I still sought out the same pleasures and escapes that I always had, even though I'd heard, been moved by, and believed the teachings on non-attachment and loving kindness. Years of conditioning weren't going to be altered through a few months of meditation and study. Real change takes time. When I look back over these 20 plus years of sobriety, when I wrote the book, I see a long journey toward awakening. Simply getting sober was hugely transforming, but that wasn't enough. I had to face all the issues around relationships and work just to get my life in order. I've also had to deal with the psychological demons of depression, anxiety, and self-doubt. I've very gradually learned to bring mindfulness into my life, and over time, layers of the addictive personality keep revealing themselves. Far from feeling that my work is complete, I am well aware of many of my shortcomings and the ways that I don't fulfill the path of awakening. In the Zen tradition, they talk about the long enduring mind, the ability to stay with the practice over years and decades. The power to carry out the will of Dharma, God, grows slowly for most of us, and it's a power that seems to have no end. Connecting with this power is a lifelong task in which we wax and wane, sometimes connecting and living in harmony, other times getting lost, confused, despairing. This is why we have practices and a community to bring us back to our central intention. Of course, there is growth. We do progress, but the forces of ignorance and craving don't just disappear. We have to keep nurturing our awareness and non-clinging to counterbalance them. When step 11 says we sought to improve, it's pointing to this fact. Our work continues. Just like the Buddha, we will be attacked by Mara throughout our lives, and it is only our awareness and commitment to the truth that protect us. That is why we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha every day, because these represent the archetypal elements of the path: wisdom, truth, and love. All right. We survived. I don't know, it just felt like it piled up a lot there. Probably could have just worked with 1 or 2 paragraphs, but I didn't know where to stop. Story of my life. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, question. My my late friend Tom C. from Hawaii was very much devoted to the idea of uh, knowing the will of God, and he would get up very early in the morning and meditate and listen for guidance. And he learned that from his teacher slash sponsor. He wrote about all this in his book called The Mindful Addict. This woman, who was his teacher and sponsor, found him on a beach when he was strung out on the north shore of Oahu, and kind of saved his life. And she told him that she had come to find him, like that she had had guidance to find him. And so he kind of learned that from her, and it's something that's completely beyond me. I mean, it's something that I can't relate to it. I can't, well, I mean, it's too magical for me, I guess. I'm too much of a skeptic or a cynic or something. And so I'm suspicious of it, but I guess I'm also, it's sort of my lack of real faith, and I'm not sure I trust, what, if I hear something in my head, I'm not sure I trust it to be guidance and not just more ego. But so I fall back on this more sort of prosaic approach to this idea of, praying or trying to have like a sense of the will of God as being, trying to live in harmony with the Dharma, and that it's not specific instruction by the day. It's like lifelong. It's the same instruction every day. Stay awake, let go, be kind, seek wisdom, seek clarity, and of course, sila, live, non-harming and follow the precepts. And for me, that's a little easier, not only easier to swallow, but it's like, it's simpler. I don't have to, it's not like God's will keeps changing. It's always the same every day. The will of the Dharma is the same every day. And so it's really up to me to kind of develop the capacity to live that way, to live in harmony with the Dharma. I thought there were a couple of paragraphs in here that sort of got my attention. The one where it says, when we meditate, we watch the functioning of the Dharma. We see how a moment of wanting is painful and how a moment of letting go is freeing. And we see the connection between our thoughts and feelings, our mind and body. We see the frail and fleeting quality of each moment, the impossibility of holding on to anything. We judge the mind as beyond ego and the impersonal and universal quality of knowing. So I like that because, again, it's about the immediacy of practice. It's about, like, it's right here. This experience, the Dharma. So, the Dharma is good. The Dharma is always good. And if I'm the more present I am, that I can see it right here, right within myself. It's not about a book, So I like that. So maybe other people have something to chime in on tonight. I'm a bit, I'm not in my most verbose. The book is, but I'm not. So Anybody have anything to share or to add? Well, it's not fair, man. You got to say something. Well, you don't have to. I'm used to silence. Got the dog next door to break the silence. Catherine, are you going to say something since you just brought yourself on?
I am. I'm sitting in a
Good.
dark apartment. I'm getting ready to move. So
Oh,
I've
you
got
turned off the power?
No, it's crazy. There's no light. I had a Tommy Bahama beach chair that I was sitting in, and I found something else. So, hello. Thank you for that reading and for your teaching. And this is just, what a powerful reading. You know, I've been in recovery about 11 years now, and I do maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 meetings a week, 12-step meetings. And I love the program. I'm committed to recovery. And every time, and I try to let go of this because but every time somebody mentions the pronoun he, and it feels like this succinct, you know, being, it just shuts me down. And I try to let go of that because I want to be well. I want to be sober, and whatever it takes. But this just makes so much sense to me. I feel like I've been on retreat because I have no language left. You know, just so much transition in my life, and I'm at spring break from a new school job. So, you know, this is just a great way to start spring break with this reading and your teaching. And, you know, just the idea of letting go of the conditioning and then allowing for, I always feel connected when I'm quiet. I feel connected to a Dharma, a higher consciousness, God, however, you know, you want to characterize it. But this really resonates with me. So thank you for that teaching.
Thanks, Catherine. It's nice to see you.
Hey Kevin, this is Jimmy. I'm in my car, so it's kind of
the night of darkness for people.
I'm on the East Coast. I just, you're reading, I kind of felt like I was hit with a fire hose because there was so much coming out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if you broke it down a little smaller, I could have digested a little easier. But some of the things that kind of stuck out was, me, the concept of a Dharma God, where it's a general thing that I'm supposed to be doing instead of getting some specific thing to do each morning, that kind of, that resonates with me. That being said, you said something as well about sometimes you get something, a voice in your head, and can't really trust it. I found that true for myself as well, but sometimes I'll get like a feeling like kind of in my solar plexus that lets me know that, you know, I should say something or do something. And I used to be more connected to that for some reason. And during the pandemic, I guess it just kind of all went to shit, and I'm trying to get back to that. So But anyways, yeah, I don't want you to think that. I think probably a lot of other people had the same thing. There's just so much information coming that was a little information overload, but it really deep stuff, very deep stuff. I appreciate it.
I agree. Thanks, Jimmy. And I think that's right in terms of like, it's definitely, and I suspect Tom C was talking about that feeling as well, much more than words. That's just my interpretation, but I think that's exactly right. It's kind of a combination of a feeling and kind of something like, it's like the options, decision making, I think, is really difficult for an addict in recovery, because we've made so many bad decisions. And that's why you get a sponsor, to help you to make decisions. I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons to have a sponsor. But that, yeah, we start to be able to sort out like the difference between the grasping or ego, craving from, oh no, this seems right, and it's a feeling, but it's also sort of like the mind gets more clear and we get better at choosing among options. Yeah, if I hadn't been sitting all day, maybe I would have had the editing ability in my mind with that piece. So maybe we'll go back. Maybe on Tuesday I'll go back and pull a paragraph or two out of there, because it kind of like that's one of the problems with my writing is I tend to get going and then I just keep like swerving around. And one thing leads to another. It's a lot like my thinking. Papancha. It's like Papancha writing. Anyway, other thoughts or questions, comments? Step 11. Anything else? Fallen trees.
Hi, Kevin. It's
Hey,
Debbie. I kind of know what I'm going to say, I guess. I really did finally I don't have my book with me this evening, so I've been finding I need to hear, I need to see, I need to write, I need to read for it's all to get in here sometimes. But when you got to the point about, our meditation being about, observing the Dharma or seeing the Dharma, sensing it, that's really been supportive for me this week. I've been going through some things, and just being able to sit and watch what the mind is doing, to sense into the body. I mean, I remember when I first came into meditation, I didn't even know that a thought or an emotion had a place in my body, It's like, oh my gosh, there's an expression in my body that I can feel. And so it was quite the exploration. And now I find it to be a place that I truly can go to at first and just feel what's happening and then see what starts layering up on top of it, actually, right? And I get still enough, then the mind starts doing all of its tangents and that winding road, just like what you were talking about. And yet this trusty breath and coming back to the center point and being still, just to trust that. And it's kind of like getting back on the boat on the lazy river and letting everything be, just letting it be. And then I don't have to do the rest of the work. It's like something will arise sometimes and sometimes not. But for me, that's the practice. And so, with all of that huge stuff that you presented in the beginning of this reading, I really appreciated getting to that point of just landing. Yes, this is the life raft. So I just want to thank you for bringing that tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you adding that. And I had a thought. Been working at letting go of them, so didn't hold on to it. Yeah. Rarely am I so useless. No, it is interesting. I went to the grocery store 2 days ago and had that sensory shock of sitting and then just walking into this intense thing. And also, everybody was annoying me. I was like, instead of like, going in and feeling all this loving kindness and like ease, it was like every person was like in my way. It was just so interesting to see. Wow. Sometimes you meditate and you get more angry. Wasn't really more angry. It's just that sensitivity that you get opened up, and then you're like, things that are really normally you just would like, you're like, oh, and yeah, meditation is really interesting when it gets very intense and deep like that. You have to take care of yourself and watch out. Like, you can actually start getting more diluted because when you get, when you're on retreat and you're not having contact with people, you can get so into your own head that even though you're trying to let go of it all, it's still like this narrative builds up that's like really, and the concentration can actually turn against you because you start concentrating on some thought. But now I remember what I was thinking a minute ago, which is about feeling. What you brought up, learning to feel, and I've just, that was, the key to my own early meditation practice. And it's something you've heard me teach many times or talk about a lot. And yet it's very difficult to teach it exactly. Like when people ask me, well, what is that? When I say like, breathe into that feeling, it's really hard to like explain it other than just try to do it, whatever, try to do what that sounds like, try to do it and start, keep trying until something will click. If you keep trying to breathe into what you're feeling, just have that, okay, I'm breathing and there's a feeling. Now, how do I breathe into it? It's like, oh, it must be that, eventually it's like it clicks, but it takes practice. I know I had to walk around and sit and whatever, do everything I was doing on retreat and keep asking myself, what am I feeling? And then once I was able to sort of locate that, eventually I realized, oh, when I'm sitting and a feeling comes up, if I breathe and open up my chest, literally, like breathe deeply, then I give space for the feeling to move and it doesn't stay stuck in me. And that's what I call breathing into my feelings. So it's the question that nobody asked. So I see that it's 8:00. And so I'm going to let you all go. I thank you for showing up. I'm apologizing for being a bit spacey, but it's been 3 years doing this twice a week. And sometimes it's like this. So blessings.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Jeff.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, thanks, Debbie.
Thank you for
Yeah.
taking that time out.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you, Kevin.
Hey, John.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks,
Okay,
Kevin.
Mike.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Good night.
Night.
And
Bye, Kevin. Thank you.
we're gone.